I have always struggled with self-esteem, and I can't tell you how to fix it completely, but I did find one tiny little mindset shift that helped a lot.
One around.
One caveat, this might work on chronic self-esteem issues, emphasis on the word chronic, where you tend to put yourself down needlessly, but it's not going to magically change you into a new person. I'll tell you my theory on why this might work at the end. As with anything, your mileage may vary, but first, the things I found that don't really help. So a lot of the advice is around putting yourself out there, fake it till you make it, surrounding yourself with positive people, positive affirmations, speaking it into existence. That's a lot of what I hear about how to fix these self-esteem issues. Is it's just a mindset of I am going to power through and just become this different person by telling myself over and over again. And how that comes across to me is kind of like gaslighting, toxic positivity, brainwashing. That's how it feels for me when I'm trying these tactics. And it's not that I haven't tried them. I've tried them for long periods of time sometimes, depending on which one we're talking about. But it never really worked. It mostly just made me feel slimy about it. Or stupid. This is what has helped me shift my view of myself when I catch myself putting myself down in the moment. Asking myself, what would I have said about it? What would I have thought about it? What would I think about it? Looking at it in a different time frame of my life, it really helps to shift my perspective in a way that doesn't feel slimy. Let me give you an example. I started doing voiceovers online 6 years ago, and I had a really low view of it. In my mind, it wasn't a real job. It didn't make that big of a difference to our family finances, and it was kind of embarrassing. That's how I felt about it. And Matthew, my husband, was always reassuring me that no, it's a great thing and everybody thinks it's really cool that I do voiceover. And anytime I mention it, everyone thinks it's really awesome that that's something I can do from home and that I'm pretty good at it. And it was really just an issue of how I felt about it myself. It felt like something anybody could do. It felt like something that didn't matter that much and that was kind of embarrassing to tell people. One day when I was talking about this with Matthew and really being harsh on myself about the worthwhileness of this job, I realized that younger me, 10, 15 years ago, if I explained the same thing that I was doing to younger me that I was explaining to other people when they asked about my job or what I did, I would have thought that was awesome, that this is what I could look forward to in my life, that this is what I would be doing. Obviously, that's not going to work with everything, but it does really help when it's a chronic self-doubt issue and it's not rooted in truth. I encountered this again last week when I posted my first YouTube video. I was extremely embarrassed about it. And as much as everyone online says, your first videos are going to suck, it's okay to suck. It doesn't matter. No one's going to see them. And they were right. Nobody watched it. But I sent it to my sister to get her feedback and I was so embarrassed about it. But then I asked myself, in preparation for this video, as I was reflecting on how I could improve the last video, I asked myself, what would I have thought a few weeks ago? I was not wholly convinced that I would actually ever get around to posting, or this would just be an idea, a thought that just festered, and I just have this kind of, oh, I could do that attitude about it and never actually do it. And I'm not usually that way, but I can be, just like anybody can be that way. So I thought about how I would view it a few weeks back, and I decided I probably would have been extremely proud of myself for just getting started, for just posting something. Not that I didn't put any work into it. I did put a lot of work and effort and thought into it. But just that getting started part was really hard and really anxiety inducing, and I did it. So anytime I start to be down on myself this week about how embarrassing, how cringy it is that I'm putting myself out there online, it's not true. I wouldn't have thought that a few weeks ago or a few months ago. I would not have viewed that. I would have been proud of myself for following through and for putting what I consider to be important conversations on the internet. Another example in which I used this kind of concept of what would I say is not with past me or younger me, but with older, future me. And how I kind of realized that this could go both ways was when I was looking at photos of myself. I struggle with body image issues, and I think most women do, but it really isn't rooted in any truth necessarily, at least definitely not to the level that I think it is or that I tell myself it is. So one day when I was looking at pictures of pregnancy and postpartum and being judgy of where I am right now, I was thinking through what was going through my head when I was posting these photos, and I felt fat, ugly, silly, and just frizzy and awkward and really pretty stupid. I felt pretty stupid. And when I looked at these photos in the present, I thought to myself, what the heck was I worried about? I look amazing. And it occurred to me that I pretty much always think I look amazing when I look back. When I look at even my awkward years where I'm like, oh, a little cringe and I feel for my younger self, I almost always think I look amazing when I look back. Because you're older and things change, and especially postpartum and pregnancy, it can be really hard on your psyche. So then, as I was going through this with my third child, I was using this mindset shift. When I started to put myself down and feel bad about how I looked, how huge I was, because it was my third child, I told myself, in 10 years, you're going to think you looked amazing. Future you thinks you're amazing. And it's such a subtle shift, but it helped me so much to be able to say, I think this. Because it's really, when my husband tells me, it's hard to be like, oh, you're just saying that. You have to say that. You can't be like, you look ugly, you're fat. You have to say I look amazing because I'm your wife. That's kind of what runs through my head, or when other people say that. When other people say the same things, I dismiss it. It's too easy to just dismiss it. I have a theory. I'm not saying this is true, but this is my thoughts. I think that it could be related to my suspicion that I may have a little bit weaker of a theory of mind. It is hard for me to step outside of myself and put myself in someone else's shoes. It's hard for me to look at something through someone else's point of view. So when people tell me something that may be true, I don't know if it's true or not. I have a really hard time knowing if they're just saying that, if they're being sarcastic or mean to me, if it's like a backhanded thing. I have a really hard time parsing that out. So by doing this little mindset shift, I'm using a trustworthy person whose thoughts that I know and whose truth that I know. My future self or my past self. What I know about older me and what I know about younger me. And that's the trick. It may work for you, it may not work for you. So in summary, I have found that when I am mentally, emotionally beating myself up, it sometimes helps to ask myself what I would think about what was going on right now in a different point in my life. Because I know my thoughts and I know I can trust them.